There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. Maya Angelou.
For over 20 years now, I have had the pleasure of working as a personal trainer. In that time, I have experienced a vast spectrum of human nature in all its imperfections. I have learned, taught, laughed, cried, been angered, and felt sorrow. The one feeling I do not have is regret. For each interaction is a story unto itself, and like any good story, they should be told.
Live with intention. Walk to the edge. Listen hard. Practice wellness. Play with abandon. Laugh. Choose with no regret. Mary Ann Radmacher.
At first, I thought it was just for his wife. Soon I learned the largest reward would be for me. The first year that I moved my business exclusively to an actual personal training facility was in 1996. I was approached by a non-native with a fitness degree, a desire to work for himself, and $50,000 given to him by a relative. Not familiar with the area and almost no hope of ever amassing clients on his own, he sought a local trainer that had roots in the town and the ability to build a client list that could carry the facility. 6 months later, we had done just that. And though my education during this time in this facility and my abrupt ejection from it turned out to be incredibly life-changing, as always, the clients created the most value. Dave was definitely no exception. Mary started with me in 1997, though we knew each other for many years. My foundation for a love of fitness instruction is gymnastics coaching career that spanned 20 years. Having been a former gymnast, I've had the absolute pleasure of coaching this incredible sport in 3 different states and 4 different gymnastics facilities with 2 former Olympians and 4 former national champions. Obviously, I am quite proud of this history since though this is only a brief diversion into my past to explain a relationship I enjoyed with a former client, I still had to create a compound, complex sentence which described not only the geography of my coaching career but also the greatness with whom I have had the honor to brush elbows. Don't worry, I'm creating the applause in my head. During my tenure as a coach, I created many friendships with the parents and students which last to this day. Mary was one such parent. After a brief encounter at a local coffee shop during one of my 60-minute breaks, she and the lady she was enjoying a cappuccino with, also a former mother of a gymnastics student from my aforementioned illustrious career, began training and continued for many years. In a few short months, Mary's husband, Dave, who I had not had the pleasure to meet prior to this, dropped by for an introduction and signed up to be a client. At the time, the idea that a client was going to own the 30-minute, 2-day week section of my life for the next 23 years was completely unimaginable. This would happen several times over in my career, and each have their own valuable lesson. An attorney by trade, I found Dave to be what I would consider a strong contradiction to William Shakespeare's view of attorneys in Henry VI, Part 2, Act 4, Scene 2. Dave was the attorney of note for a large regional bank as well as many international companies. Politically, Dave and I typically agree, but unlike most individuals I share thoughts of current events, Dave was a refreshing embodiment of the truth. Quiet by nature, Dave almost never became boisterous in his argument, but no one should mistake his somewhat reserved demeanor as weak, uninformed, or lack of devotion. In my 52 years, I have heard many a man state, "I call them like I see them," as if to clarify that there is no hidden agenda and they are speaking only the truth as they see it. It's unfortunate to me that this oft-used phrase is bastardized by those trying to convince only themselves that they possess such clarity of purpose when there are those Daves of the world who are the only ones that are so truly deserving of this statement that it never has to be uttered. It is inherent in personal training tenure that a repertoire develops, and I have written about this many times. Mine and Dave's was one of a myriad of topics. But because of his ability to truly call things like he saw it, Dave's counsel was always one I often sought. Though we may disagree, I will receive an unvarnished version of the truth from someone many would choose to emulate. To say the least, I enjoy my sessions with Dave. At times, I feel if I'm getting far more out of this than the person whose credit card is being debited to cover the cost of my time. Be that as it may, Dave has achieved a lifestyle change few would recognize, and even less would realize the value. Though Dave is quite accomplished, an athlete is someone who for he will never be mistaken. Dave has played a few sports in his life, but is no fitness enthusiast. In fact, if asked, he will tell you, and has told me on many occasions,
"Well, I don't care to do any of this."
Despite this powerful, call things like I see them statute, Dave is devoted to what he knows he needs and what is also best for his family. 23 years ago, when Mary introduced me to Dave, David made a decision to make a change to a healthier lifestyle. He, at that time, did not know what that was, but as with his career, marriage, parenting, and values, the question of whether or not he would attain this goal was a foregone conclusion. The how was foreign even to his trainer. We began our sessions together in the usual way of a simple physical evaluation through a battery of exercises and some conversation to build confidence in his trainer, as well as develop an easy rapport that could build to a healthy relationship. Typically, once the evaluation is complete, usually taking a few sessions to fully understand the client and their preferred mode of being trained, we begin to increase the intensity. The difference, which most of the time can be recognized, though sometimes may not be easily discerned by the human eye. Noticing Dave's change would almost require X-ray vision. I quickly picked up on a few abnormal weaknesses and incorporated focus on these areas with a full body conditioning through some very digestible exercises. I describe these exercises as digestible since they are not extremely difficult to conduct, even though intensity can be magnified to superhuman levels. To explain it in a simple phrase, Dave's routine was and is incredibly sufficient to meet his level of wellness. Like with many clients, to an outsider, Dave's routine may seem ripe for critique, which has happened, unbeknownst to Dave. I've had, with regularity, from clients who attend sessions around his 23-year time slot, comments like, "Shouldn't he be doing that exercise better than that? Is that all he can lift? I saw him only do half as many as he should have." This misplaced belly aching came with its complete lack of any value and constant annoyance to the listener. Dave, if he ever did hear, could absolutely care less, in the true sense of the phrase, and not the lackluster, boasting way of someone who cares all too much but is trying to convince you and themselves otherwise. Dave's confidence in his ability to reach his goal is so unquestionable that it dare not need mentioning. I doubt, following our first meeting and establishing what he wanted to attain, it has ever even crossed his mind. Dave simply set upon a task, and from the outset, it was to be completed. He did so with very little fanfare, for no one was required. Dave simply wanted to improve his health to a point suitable to his required activity level for his life and keep it there forever. You would think that the rising action I have set upon to write would eventually climax into an astounding physical or psychological result worthy of a lengthy denouement. I am well aware that this does not seem to be the case. And yet, it is, most certainly. As I have discussed in several radio shows, podcasts, and certainly other confessions, everyone is looking to attain their own level of wellness. Most only realize it once they are actually there, if they ever notice it at all. Everyone, regardless of the similarity of goals, trains in a way that is completely unique to them. Typically, a client spends much of that time either A, feeling they need to do better no matter the effort they put forth, B, feeling they are overworked and need to lighten the load. Or C, feel like they are attempting to reach a point-to-point destination, but are on a treadmill going nowhere. Pardon the analogy. It is in these challenges when a trainer truly shows their mettle. The ability to skillfully navigate a client through these mental barriers to success is far more difficult than creating a protocol to meet not only the, at times, lofty goals of a client, but the physical challenges of the same. This ability is acquired only through life lessons and experience in addition to education. Due to the educated and experienced staff at Personal Edge Fitness, the vast majority of our clients are able to triumph over these difficulties and reap their ultimate reward. For this, we are truly blessed and appreciative. My friend Dave's story is rarely seen, for he never had an inkling of any of those three scenarios. Instead, he simply achieved the task he set himself to complete and continued to live his level of wellness once attained. To Dave, level of wellness, once defined, is to be expected as much as death and taxes. In 23 years, he has never wavered. It may be difficult for anyone outside of a seasoned trainer to understand the profound importance of this seemingly simple achievement. To an educated, experienced trainer, it is nirvana. If asked to sum this up, describe Dave's approach to any goal, I believe he could use a quote from Robert Frost's Choose Something Like a Star to completely sum up his process. So when at times the mob is swayed to carry praise or blame too far, we may choose something like a star to stay our minds on and be stayed.